We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Do not forget to ring the notification bell. You don't know when we're coming on live next. I don't know when we're coming on live next. Make sure you ring that notification bell if you want to support this independent, national, college football's rebel outpost with a donation to help us keep the lights on and grow the channel. Just hit that $ where you make your comments, and I will get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Excuse me. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. The voice is a little gone. We have been working, I don't know how many days straight here in the studio. We've been doing a lot of shows. We have been doing some beautiful singing. Yes, we have been doing some beautiful singing here at Peek Around the Corner. The little general knows that I had to, that I basically once again had to rip up the script for today's show and rearrange the deck chairs on the fat guy from Minnesota's Titanic. Did Miami receive any Big Ten assurances? Something happened today that I would have been the last person. I know this is college football peek around the corner. I know I'm supposed to give you the peek around the corner. But I would have been the last person here in the studio, along with all of you. This is a good segue, right? D5 Terps, drink every time Fluke says nothing is imminent. Excuse me, my voice is going. We're going to do the best we can. We're going to do the best we can today. I would have been the last person to have said yes. This is a possibility of happening today. Excuse me. The University of Miami, the president, did the Joe Rose interview last week. And I'm gonna go ahead and do this. I'm going to tell you guys something which I held back. I held back a little bit of information on this interview for reasons that, reasons because that is how you do it. You at some point you hold back a little bit of information, and then if somebody comes to you with that same type of information and some other information, you know that other person has got a beat on something that is accurate. It's one of the things. It's just one of the ways that you do this. Last week, the University of Miami president went on the Joe Rose show, and he did the interview, and we covered it. We put out an episode on it. Right away, and we did a live show. We talked about it. Today, and I'm going to tell you what I held back here in just a second. Today, the University of Miami Facebook account and X account put out this graphic with Joe Echeverria, the president of Miami, standing there with his quote right next to him. We as a university are playing for our next contract, not playing for the one we're in. So however the realignments occur, whatever may occur, we are going to be invited. We're the leading ones. Where the leading one is, they won't leave us out. Will be far too relevant and too big a brand. Now, there may have been other media accounts of Miami that they put this out there. I do not know. I know there's two of them. The Facebook account and the X account. Same graphic. Same part of the interview that intrigued, of course, us here at Peek Around the Corner. and others. Why a week later? And it's more than just one account. This was a coordinated messaging from the University of Miami. Now you may ask, Greg, is that such a big deal? It is very, very odd. And it is not only I that believes it's odd. Okay, so when the Joe Rose show came on, and after it was complete, no, it wasn't even completed because I was listening to it. There was a couple of Miami Hurricanes PATC family members and outside of the PATC family that said, hey, you should be listening to this Joe Rose interview. You should go back to this sort of minute. And I started on one of them, I started typing in, I'm already listening. But then I, whoa, and I deleted it. And I said, thank you, thanks, whatever. I had a few of those. And there's probably somebody in the chat room or watching this program that remembers, oh yeah, I'm one of them that sent Greg this link to this show. And I hope you all can understand what I'm about to say. I was already listening to the program. I do now I do thank everybody who gives me a heads up. I love it that you guys keep your head on a swivel and you include me in whatever you're listening to, radio show, article. I love it. I lean on you, guys and gals. I appreciate it. Thank you so very much. But I was already listening to the program because I was given a tip that I should listen to the program. There are a couple of people that are aware that I've told them that, and I'll let them decide if they want to tell you all. But and they're again, I want to. Hopefully, you guys can forgive me, but there are times where we delivered you the information that the president said, and we did it. That's why I was able to put out a video so quickly. If you notice the timestamp of the video that we put out at the time of the interview, because I was watching it live from the beginning. There are reasons why there are some pieces of information we hold tight, just in case there are other information that comes on in that duplicates what we know but we haven't put out. Well, that's happened. That's happened more than once during that interview has come out. So I'm going to use the word allegedly so the university president doesn't sue me. The University of Miami's president or the University of Miami or the Joe Rose show or whatever. Allegedly. There was some coordination in that interview. There was a mission to put out some information which of course intrigues the heck out of me, the question that I had during that video, the episode, the question that I had when we did the live show on it was, who is the exact audience that the president is speaking to? And I've asked this question on live. I've asked this question in emails. I've asked this question in text messages. I've asked this question with those who are the chatter behind the curtain. I've asked this question to BTM. I've asked this question to everybody that I know in the Rolodex. Who is the audience when the university president is saying this? And then ultimately, the question is, did the Big Ten give Miami any assurances? Or did the SEC, which I don't think is, I don't believe is in play. But look, we're going to go into this at the second half of our monologue. I'll give you the latest round of information that we have received. There is one school in the Big Ten that has really is sponsored. There is a school in the Big Ten that is now sponsoring Miami to the Big Ten. And it's not Michigan, although Michigan is in favor. And I'm not talking about Ohio State. There is one school, a new bit of information. Again, is it all tied to this? Is this leaking out? Is this happening? There are a lot of things we know about the candidacy of Miami. There's a lot to the candidacy that we have talked about here at Peek Around the Corner. Even during the times when Miami did not have a great football team, even during the times that we got dragged over the coals by those who have never gotten anything right, but somehow, those type of people. But there are things we know about the Miami candidacy. In our 2 prediction shows we have done here at Peek Around the Corner, we have predicted Miami to the Big Ten. Neither of them are a report. And you all know the difference, but there's people out there that do not know the difference between a prediction and a report. We reported on USC. We reported on Colorado, the hot ball of action. We reported on Washington and Oregon. We helped break a lot of news over the last 12 years. Our predictions of Miami going to the Big Ten is a prediction, not a report. The reason why it's not a report is we do not believe, but we could end up being wrong. Going to D5 Terps message on the board right there. We don't think anything is imminent. We do not believe anything is operational at this point. And we'll go in, when we go in the back half of the monologue, we will explain why that is, why we believe that to be the case. I got to tell you though, we could be 100% wrong. I'm not trying to be wrong. We're not infallible. Our track record speaks for itself, but we could be wrong. I don't think we are, but we could be wrong. Something could have been done, and it's not out there yet. But we got more information today about Miami. We'll talk about that. Over the last couple of years, we predicted Miami to the Big Ten. The research of Miami is exactly what the Big Ten is looking for right now. The market, the international market, Miami, even though they're way down there in the tip of the great state of Florida, it is an international airport. The market, it would bring diversity to the Big Ten. Miami is one of those schools in the ACC that would consider themselves, would have the least amount of problems joining a national conference. They have the least ties to the ACC among the candidates. Academically, research-wise, market, football brand. In Miami, and this is sort of the important part of it, if the quick strike does occur, and we have not reported that we've given you guys the peek, that we believe these schools were given the heads up that there is a potential of all that. The Florida State Money Perch gave us the information. We put it out there, lickety split. The next day, the University of Miami said what he said. But if it does occur, and I don't know if it's going to occur, not right now, not today, maybe later on today, but if it does occur, and if there is a quick strike to try to deflect, negate, however you want to term it, the Protecting College Sports Act from happening, if somebody actually agrees to join the Big Ten or the SEC in this environment, it's a school that is willing to gamble big. Because this would not be like any other realignment out there. So is the University of Miami, does that fit that description? I'll leave that up to you to decide. But yeah, we have received one huge, specific, new information about the University of Miami's candidacy to the Big Ten. Is that playing a part in this? Is that playing a part in this confidence that the University of the Miami president seems to have? Dale Donuts. Everyone needs to calm down. The bill in Congress is retroactive, which means that any conference changes will be reversed and undone. Now, that may be the case. That might end up being the case, absolutely. But that is a feature. That's not a bug. In other words, when we reported the Florida State Money Perch information, and then the next day the University of Miami said what he said, and then we gave the report on what the Big Ten is thinking of. The Big Ten wants to choose the battle that they will go into the courts with if they get strangled and butchered by the Protecting College Sports Act if it passes. Now, the Big Ten may not fight this on the grounds of freedom of association. They may fight it on the grounds of, this is our media rights. We have control of our, you can't just arbitrarily, we are a private organization. There's a few other grounds that they could fight this on. But they might fight it on this ground where they can't even choose their own members of a private organization. What are you, crazy? That's one of the options that the Big Ten wants to go at in this bill. And it is better to do it while you're active in trying to expand. Now, again, for all this to happen, and we're not saying that's going to happen, we made that perfectly clear. But the schools that want to get in on this, if they want to do this, they got to have big stones. They got to be, the school has to be totally, fully aligned. The school has to be politically be able to do this. Well, that kind of fits the university. It does fit the University of Miami. You got the president. They're fully aligned and politically they can do this. But I don't doubt Dale Donuts. Congress will probably make it retroactive, ex post facto, whatever. But that's exactly why the Big Ten might, or the SEC might do this. Again, we're going to get back into this at the second half of the monologue. We've got quite the show in front of us. Again, I had to rip up the original script. But before we leave this, to go on with our spotlight of the Clemson Tigers, and then we're going to talk about Pat Forday, Sports Illustrated. Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered, and then what Paul Feinbaum said, and then what I said to Paul Feinbaum. Was there anybody paying attention? Besides Daniel Montcastle and a few other people in the chat room that knew college football, peek around the corner back in 2012, was there anybody else paying attention out there? Was there anybody else paying attention to why the Big Ten, when USC called the Big Ten, expanded? Because it's obvious that Pat Forday, Paul Feinbaum, and just about everybody else did not pay attention to what was being reported in 2022. Because college football, peek around the corner, where nobody's back in 22, nobody back here in 2026. But my gosh, nobody. It seems like hardly anybody was paying attention. All right, we've got a big show lined up for you today. Wait, I got to say this about Miami first. One more thing I want to include here, just to keep, just to have everybody think about this for a moment. I do not believe, okay, I'm going to say allegedly here. Allegedly. Allegedly, the University of Miami and every other Big Ten SEC candidate has signed an NDA. And I have talked to people about what the University of Miami president said last week, and it's being thrown about, it's being put out there by their digital team. Today, obviously, this statement would not cross the line because it does not name the Big Ten specifically. When he says, so, however, the realignments occur, whatever may occur, we are going to be invited where the leading one is. They won't leave us out. We'll be far. He did not specifically say the Big Ten or the SEC. That's important. And number two, but keep in mind, this statement from the University of Miami's president, I asked the question during the live show, during the episode, and already early in this live show, who is the audience that the University of Miami's president was talking to? I really do not believe for a moment that the audience was the Big Ten or the SEC. He would not need to have to say this. And if he said that for the audience of the Big Ten and the SEC, that would be a big no-no. But I really do not believe he did that for the audience of the Big Ten and the SEC. I happen to believe at this time, the reason why the University president of Miami went on that Joe Rose show to say it out loud to everybody, I believe the audience was the big movers inside and outside of the University of Miami in other entities, but not the Big Ten and the SEC. And it is my early theory on why it was put out in social media today. It's an early theory is that he's gotten more questions about it, obviously. And I think he just wanted to reestablish that they are feeling pretty good about this situation. The question is, did Miami receive any Big Ten assurances? And we'll get into that in the second half of the monologue. All right. I do want to thank everybody for joining us. We've got a big crew, over 200 people live. I do want to get to the super chat, so we're not going to have time to go through the roll call. We have got a stacked show. So I want to give time here. Thanks to everybody for joining us on the June 22nd, a beautiful Monday afternoon, early evening, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us. Subscribe and make sure you ring that notification bell. We've got the Evil Badger, $5 holla. Evil Badger, they're still cleaning up glass at the U.S. Bank Stadium from Greg singing yesterday. No. Everybody's very happy with the performance yesterday. I thought it went well. I think everybody in the chat, is my memory... I think my memory is okay. I think everybody in the chat room believed it was a good performance. I think I got that right. Right, everybody? Correct. Thank you, Eva Badger. Thank you for the $5 holler. We got Heartbreak 25. Heartbreak 25. $5 holler. My goodness. Are you hearing from national pundits the entire Big Ten SEC debate about who has the better mid-pack teams will be settled on Minnesota Mississippi State game? No, no, I have not been hearing that. I am going to be on the Steven Stingray show out there in Alabama. Steven Stingray, Mississippi State fan, SEC fan, a great guy. I've been on the show before out there in Alabama, and I'm going to be on there again the week of that game. So I'll give you guys a heads up, but that's going to be the week before Minnesota Mississippi State game. I will say this: the Gophers are a middle of the pack Big Ten team. They're slightly above the middle of the pack, finishing above 500 most of the years, the last 7 years. First 2 years of the 18-team expansion, Big Ten expansion, they finished above 500 in the conference. And Mississippi State is not a middle of the pack SEC team. They're at the bottom, near the bottom. So I say this with all confidence, but also with reality. The Gophers are expected to win this football game. The pressure is on Minnesota. It's not on Mississippi State. And if you want to elevate this to, and it's natural that it's Big Ten versus SEC, the pressure is on the Big Ten side. Because this is a Gopher team that regularly goes to the bowl games and has an upset every year and wins all the bowl games and finishes above 500. The Gophers are expected to win, and win they will do. Buckle up. Brace for impact. Thank you for the $5 holler Heartbreak 25. Very much appreciate it. We got Marcus Williams. If true, Marcus Williams, $2 holler. Thank you very much. If true, Notre Dame is on suicide watch, especially if Florida State is number 20. I don't think Notre Dame is on suicide watch. I would say this, though, Marcus. And I brought this up on the Sunday Freaky Show, College Football Mafia show last night in a super chat. Notre Dame did not like the fact that the bill, the Cruz-Cantwell bill, included no expansion for the Big 12 and ACC. They did not like that part. Because basically what happens is Notre Dame, they love their college football independence. They've been football independents forever. They're sort of quasi-football independents right now. They want to stay football independents. The walls have been closing in. But one of the things that Notre Dame has always been able to say to the Big Ten, and because they are always talking, there have never been any restrictions put on the communications between the Big Ten and football independent Notre Dame. They've always talked. One of the leverages that Notre Dame would have is say, we've got options, we've got choices. Even if we had to go to the conference, Big Ten, we would go to the ACC. Or if we take all of our schools out of the ACC, maybe possibly we could do this thing that you don't think we would do and join the SEC. Notre Dame could always argue an option to the Big Ten. But if this bill passes, you've got the ACC, no expansion. Big 12, no expansion. SEC, no expansion. Big 10, no expansion. Then you've also got in this environment where nobody's trusting anybody. Now you got this environment where the SEC may crank up their conference games. The Big 10 may crank up their conference games. Brett Yormark has already said we may go to 10 conference games. ACC might. So You've got it to where you cannot go anywhere. You're sitting at a football independence. The conferences are having more conference games. Notre Dame is being eliminated off its schedules. Look, the example, Texas doesn't even know if they're going to play Notre Dame a few years from now. That is the spot that Notre Dame does not want to be in at all. So even in the late markup of this Cruz-Cantwell bill did not go Notre Dame's way. They did not want that to happen, but it happened. Thank you for the $2 holler, Marcus Williams. Appreciate it very much. Bimba 75-79. I do declare Michigan starts 9-0. Consider that booked. Bimba 75-79. Consider that book. That's probably going to be at least a 3-pointer, if not a 4-pointer. But right now, we'll think about it as a 3-pointer. Thank you, Bimba 75-79. Thank you for the $2 holler. Very much appreciated. And I might add, let's go really quick through the updated I Do Declare from the PATC family. Let's see here. Numbskull News. Houston wins the Big 12. 3 points. TCU defeats Texas Tech. Numbskull News, 3 points. Texas Tech will not make the Big 12 championship game. Numbskull News, 1 point. Colorado will make it to the college football playoffs. Jacoba Cat, 5 points. USF will go undefeated, 12-0 in the regular season. John Grove, 5 points. Oklahoma State defeats Texas Tech. MBM, 3 points. 94 official predictions have come in for the I Do Declare Championship. Number 95, Bimba 75-79. We will include that. You'll see that in the update tomorrow, Bimba 75-79. Thank you so very much. All right. Let's get to the spotlight. The Clemson Tigers. And then we're going to go into the Pat Forte, Paul Feinbaum, and some other things that I want to get off my chest before we get to the University of Miami story. Let's get to it, ladies and gentlemen. The spotlight is squarely on the Clemson Tigers. 2026. Vizina. Christopher Vizina. He's been there for how many games? He was the backup quarterback for 3 years. Remember, Christopher Vizina came out of the state of Alabama. He was one of the top 100 high school players coming out. And he's been the backup. He's been waiting his turn. He's played 14 games. 596 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, 61% completion percentage, 119.3 quarterback rating. And it sounds like the backup quarterback. If it doesn't go well for Vizina, Dabo Swinney's got a true freshman quarterback, Tate Reynolds. Tate Reynolds from Arizona. An interesting dude. I got to tell you, I looked at his tape. His father, can't remember the father's first name. He played at Arizona State a little bit in baseball, in football. Tate Reynolds is also going to be playing baseball for Clemson. A really good athlete. And he's going to be the backup quarterback for Christopher Vizina. We'll see how this works. Again, I have seen Vizina in the spring games. You can go ahead and Google it. The reports were mixed about Christopher Vizina. But Dabo Swinney and the offensive staff, they did not go in the portal. Now, I get it. Clemson usually doesn't go in the portal. But they did last offseason. They helped their defense greatly by going in the portal. So they had a little bit of a change in philosophy, but they did not go in the portal to get a quarterback. So they believe in this guy. They believe in this guy, Christopher Vizina. Now, running back. I did not have. Look, I get it. Gideon Davidson is supposed to be the superstar of Clemson. I put him in the spotlight last year as a true freshman running back. During spring practice, Gideon Davis, or I think it was summer, August, he stole the show. But when it came to the regular season, Gideon Davidson ended up with like over 250 yards. He was not ready. He was not developed. Is he ready in his second year? I do not know. We're going to find out. Clemson versus LSU. Is Gideon Davidson going to be RB1? Or is it going to be this man, Chris Johnson? The transfer from SMU. 479 yards rushing. 7.1 average per rush. 4 rushing touchdowns. 17 receptions. 180 yards receiving. 10.6 average. 1 receiving touchdown. The combination of Chris Johnson, Gideon Davidson, could that combination in the backfield for Clemson, could it help Clemson propel them back into the ACC championship game? Some questions around the development of the Clemson running. They had to put in a former receiver tight end to be their star running back last year. Can they develop the running back at Clemson in 2026? Well, I tell you what, they've developed some wide receivers. No question about that. Bryant Wesco, 7 games, had an injury. But yeah, we all know that he's good. We all know that he was really good the year before. 31 receptions, 537 yards receiving, 17.3 average per reception, 6 receiving touchdowns. And then you've also got TJ Mohr coming back. 52 receptions, 837 yards receiving, 16.1 average, 4 receiving touchdowns. I got to tell you, it's good news for Clemson. It's good news for Clemson fans when you've got Wesco and Mohr deciding to come back. Because they decided they're not going to go in the portal. And they knew that Clemson was not going in the portal to get a quarterback. Wesco and Mohr have played with Vizina. So if you want to, again, that it seems to be a good indication that Wesco and Mohr, maybe they believe in Christopher Vizina. I tell you who I believe, because I've seen it up close. Will Helt, the dynamic defensive end, rush in. He transferred from Purdue, and we all knew in the Big Ten that he was going to end up being a monster for the Boilermakers. But he transferred. He went from Purdue to Clemson. And I said it on the live show last year when we did the spotlight on Clemson. I told the Clemson Tiger fans, you've got yourself a superstar. And he performed like a superstar for Clemson. 20 solo tackles, 46 combination, 15 and a half tackle for losses. Pressure. 7.5 sacks. The real deal Holyfield, Will Helt. He came back to Clemson. Also, and again, we cannot talk about the Clemson defense or the Clemson team without talking about linebacker Sammy Brown. A phenomenal linebacker, and his production was off the charts last year. 50-some solo tackles, over 100 combination tackles, that's solo and assistant tackles. Well over 10 tackle for losses. I think it was like 14, 15, 13. And a handful of sacks. Sammy Brown, phenomenal linebacker for the Clemson Tigers. Now again, there has been something a little bit off with the Clemson Tigers defense in and around stopping the running game, opponents' running games, even though Clemson has all these NFL players. So something schematically is wrong at Clemson. That is why that LSU Clemson game to start the season, is there a more interesting game than that? I don't think there is in the first weekend. I mean, I get it. There's a lot of big games. A lot of big games. Lots of them. Huge. Even bigger than this one when it comes to who's going to win the national championship. But this one is so interesting to me. You've got Lane Kiffin. You've got Sam Leavitt. You've got all the new stuff at LSU. And you're going against Clemson, who's bringing back their wide receivers. They're bringing back a quarterback who's been there for 4 years but hasn't played. And you got the defense who've got some stars, but can they stop the running game? What an interesting game. And I'm going to do all that I can to do the watch party on this game. So their first ACC game is at home against North Carolina. Then they're on the road to California, and then there it is. They've got Miami at home. They've got Virginia Tech at home. On the road to Florida State, on the road to Syracuse, at home against Georgia Tech, on the road to Duke, and of course, the Palmetto State, it is a rivalry. It's just mostly one-sided. Clemson at home against South Carolina. Now, I do believe that South Carolina has been able to nip the Clemson Tigers at third place the last couple of times out. So I think Clemson is going to want to change that up here in 2026. So where do we got the Clemson Tigers? We got them number 4. Now, when we did this way too early ACC order of finish prediction, I called myself the coward of the county for not putting California ahead of Clemson. Now I'm going to give myself some grace. I think Clemson number 4 is the right call. First of all, I think Chris Johnson, I think people are going to be really excited when they first see Chris Johnson in the backfield at Clemson. He's going to make a big difference in that running game. I cannot put him ahead of SMU at this point. I'm going to have to make one more evaluation of Louisville. Louisville's got a quarterback that we have not seen play. He's sort of like the Christopher Vezina, but of Louisville. So we got Clemson at number 4. Let me know how wrong I got it once again, that Clemson should be number 1, number 2, number 3, or number 5, 6, 7, 8 in the ACC. This has been your Clemson Tiger Spotlight. Again, Will Helt, superstar. Sammy Brown, superstar. TJ Mohr, he could be a superstar this year. A very good wide receiver, Brian Wesco, is dynamite. Chris Johnson, he's got a lot of juice. Getting Davison, I want to see it. And I want to see it out of the quarterback, Christopher Vezina. I was big on Clemson last year. I got burned by Clemson last year. Greg the Cooler. Now that was last year. Greg the Cooler predicted Clemson in the national championship game. They went 7-6. So I'm a little nervous. I'm a little nervous about Clemson. But I think fourth place is the spot right now for the Clemson Tigers. Again, put down your comments in the comment section below the video and let me know how wrong I got it once again. Mama Duck, it's all good. I think Dabo is back this year. Dabo is back. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. LSU defeats Clemson by 14. My goodness, Daniel Gorby. My goodness. Edward the Auburn Tiger. If it's the SEC, it's going to be a big game. Enough said. Enough said. Clemson goes 10-2. Kenneth Maynard. Interesting. Mama Duck, I agree. I think we'll learn a lot. That may have to do with the LSU Clemson starting us off September 5th. All right. So I'm going to read an article here. We're not going to go through the whole article. There's one part of the article that I want to show. This is from Pat Forday of Sports Illustrated. This is the environment that we are living in. Pat Forday, Congress is coming for the SEC and the Big Ten, the college sports empire. The Protect College Sports Act reflects mounting frustration with the Power Two's dominance and could force them to consider drastic next steps. Okay. It could force them into considering drastic next steps. But the article never talks about the next steps. I don't know why that is. I do think there is a little bit of a hesitancy, a little bit of a delicacy, a little bit of a some embargoed information happening, and I think people are being very wary about talking about the next. We don't do that at Peek Around the Corner. We give you the Peek Around the Corner. Although there are some things we hold back from time to time, and I gave you an example earlier today, and I gave you the reasons why. The article never really goes into the drastic steps, although we've been covering that pretty good. I'm not going to go through the whole article, but Pat Forday, as the saying goes, pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. The butcher knives are being sharpened with the Big Ten and the SEC in mind. It's quite a turn of events. Then it talks about the Protect College Sports Act, and all the ramifications of that. The Big Ten and the SEC are now of the mind that this is an unwanted legislation. Prohibiting the power conference mergers and acquisitions. It first targeted the Big Ten and the SEC, but now it was expanded to include the ACC and the Big 12. It's talking about this gaping wound. The Big Ten and the SEC have kept pushing everyone else to the brink. It goes in the history of the SEC swiped Texas and Oklahoma from the Big 12. A year later, the Big Ten tearing down the Pac-12 by taking USC and UCLA. And then it came for Oregon and Washington. Everything, if you've been following us here at Peek Around the Corner, that we reported. We were not saying nothing is imminent. We were saying everything, it is happening because it was operational. And so it goes through the history of that. And then it talks about, guess who still remembers the damage done by those raids? Cantwell from the state of Washington, where many Washington State alum and fans live and vote. Talks about the pain that all caused. And it did. And guess who else doesn't like the escalating revenue gap between the Big Ten and the SEC and other power conferences? The ACC and the Big 12, billionaire Texas Tech Board of Regents chair Cody Campbell, who's been on a power trip on his own. And then Ted Cruz, I love the SEC, Texas A&M, but if we don't act, I'm not sure any other Texas program survives. I look around Texas and imagine a world without TCU, SMU, Baylor, Texas Tech, Houston, or Rice. Again, this is Pat Forday, Sports Illustrated. Okay. I want to get to this part here. Is the nuclear breakaway option back in play? And is it more real than it's ever been? Would a congressional attempt at placing limits on the SEC and the Big Ten actually have the opposite effect, empowering them to be even more aggressive in pursuing their own interests? Again, we have reported to you that the option is on the table for the quick strike. The option is on the table for a breakaway. We've talked about all of that. This is Pat Forday going all the way up to the edge, but he doesn't quite want to jump in the water yet. He does not want to tell us what is the exact nuclear option. But again, this is the chatter behind the curtain. This is the chatter behind the curtain. Even before the PCSA was introduced, the SEC spring meetings last month were spiced by breakaway talk. It seemed like empty posturing at the time. It wasn't. And we reported to you that it wasn't. It may not happen, but this stuff is not idle threats. They're working on all the game plans for this. Now, this is the part that I wanted to highlight here. The Big Ten and the SEC have, in theory, been handed a convenient cover to mull a drastic move. Again, he doesn't want to quite get to what that drastic move is, but I think we're going to finally get some more reporting on this pretty soon. The commissioners of the two leagues, Petitti and Sankey, have sometimes portrayed themselves as being forced into a power grab by unimaginable circumstances elsewhere. We'll see if they can rationalize what would be the ultimate power move by blaming Congress for authoring a bill they did not want again. So basically he's saying, we're going to see if they take this next drastic action, right? And Pat Forday, I remain convinced that any consolidation in the Super League would be the final ruinization of college sports. Again, it ain't going to be a Super League. I don't know if Pat Forday doesn't quite understand that yet, but this is the part right here. I don't think Sankey wants to be known as one of the destroyers of collegiate athletics model. I'm not sure Petitti cares. The presidents and the chancellors within their leagues would have that on their hands as well. As a rule, they're shrewdly political animals with self-preservation a prime motivator. Okay, so we're going to stop there. Again, Pat Forday, like he always does, he puts Sankey on a pedestal and he puts Petitti in the hot chair. I don't think Sankey wants to be known as one of the destroyers of college athletics model. I'm not sure Petitti cares. Okay. Look, Pat Forday has always looked at the SEC expansion differently than he's looked at the Big Ten expansion. Always, always, always. And most of these national reporters have done the same thing. Now, he talks about Petitti and Sankey not wanting to be the destroyers of college athletics, not wanting to get blamed. Let me ask the question, who gets blamed if this bill passes and government takes control? Who gets the blame? Who gets the blame if this government control takeover of college sports absolutely destroys it, and it will? Who gets the blame then? Petiti and Sankey again? Or the yahoos that keep thinking that this thing is actually about saving anybody and anything? Let me give you, this whole thing has been going on for a long time. Let me go back into time here. First of all, I do want to thank College Football Mafia. My goodness, thank you for becoming a member for how many months? 30 months. My goodness. Nathan Brown, you are knighted cloak and dagger, my friend. Cloak and dagger. Looking great today, Greg. Well, as always. No P2 breakaway, not enough money, no conference is bigger than 20. Conference possible, 20 to 24. 21 with Notre Dame. Thank you, Nathan Brown. I appreciate it. I appreciate you stating a position that a lot of people agree with you on. I happen not to agree with that. There might not be a P2 breakaway. It is dangerous waters. Dangerous waters. Dangerous. But I do think there's enough money for it. I mean, again, I say this with all the kindness I can say it. There's a lot of people on Capitol Hill who is saying that if everybody consolidates their rights together, everybody can make more money. Yeah! The Big Ten, SEC, Conference USA, Big 12. But yet there's not enough money for the Big Ten to expand by 2 teams or 4 teams. Logically, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. If one can bring on so much more money, but an expansion of 2 to 4 in the Big Ten with SEC, there is no money for that. Why would Fox pay more for a consolidated 138 team buffet? Why would they pay more for that than paying for a Big Ten to 20 to 22 teams? But anyways, I do appreciate it, College Football Mafia. Appreciate so very much. We've got Jose. Pick up your college football preseason magazine at the grocery stands now. 1 for the house, 1 for work, 1 for the car while at the red traffic lights. Thank you so much, Jose. A member for 31 months. Nathan Brown and Jose, thank you so very much. Members for 30 and 31 months. According to my Minnesota math, that is somewhere upward a little bit over 2 years. Thank you so very much. Wow. Thank you so very much. Let's go back into time for a moment. And this will get back to the Nathan Brown, what he's saying and other people are saying. But this really gets back to what Pat Forte... Oh. Let me show you this. Let me show you this real quick. I want everybody to stick around here. I want everybody to stick around. This is Paul Feinbaum on the article of Pat Forte. Paul Feinbaum, Sports Illustrated by Pat Forte, pulling no punches. I think Tony Petiti is the kind of guy that would walk across Indiana's beautiful campus and ask, why isn't there a Jimmy John's billboard here? If I'm looking for a caretaker of college sports, I'm not looking to him first. Okay. I don't know whether to laugh hysterically or to cry. I don't know if anybody's been paying attention. I'm going to go back into time and show you what I wrote in 4 years ago in 2022. 4 years ago. May 31st, 2022. This was the time when I was breaking the USC story that nobody was paying attention to except for USC 247. But I was explaining why this was all happening. May 31st, 2022. It's a true option because contractually SEC and ESPN can pull it off. Started in 2026. I'm talking about the breakaway. Economically, at least short term, it also can be done. For now, it should be considered a threat. The mere threat of an SEC standalone playoffs will have ripple effects elsewhere, and it did. The SEC threatened that a couple of years later with the expansion of the college football playoffs, and we've all seen the ramifications, the ripple effects of all that. Is what we said May 31st, 2022. BTM, Big Ten man who has helped me break stories over the last 12 years. He said this June 13th, 2022. Again, one of a whole lot of posts that we put out there. This was 17 days before it became official when the rest of the country found out. BTM, you don't find the Big Ten leadership on any level or inside each Big Ten university leadership on any level, in private or public, dismiss the possibility of expansion for two reasons. One, interest from USC. We had all the evidence. We had all the information. We reported all of it. And number two, the SEC's power to create own universe and to enlarge its universe. As I tried to explain to everybody 4 years ago, the Big Ten did not want to drop behind the SEC in total market share of college sports. The USC was it. We already knew at this time. We knew a lot of stuff at this time. We knew that the Big Ten was following my butt every time I made a comment. The legal counsel was on my butt. We knew that this was breaking. And we were explaining why the Big Ten was doing this. Because they feared the SEC was going to get way too big and powerful for the NCAA model. And we're seeing that all play out today. As I said on May 30th, 2022, the future of pay-to-play economics is major reason why Texas and Oklahoma call the SEC. It's a major reason why the SEC is forming a viable separate SEC playoff format option. But the waves of this new economic reality goes beyond the southeastern shores of the United States. I say this with all due respect to Pat Forday and Paul Feinbaum, that is laying the blame at Tony Petitti in the Big Ten. And all the rest of you, by the way. This was the natural evolution of the sport. Because we did not harness it. First of all, member institutions, that is us. We make up the NCAA. The NCAA is not the boogeyman. It's not separate. It is us. Member institutions. We failed to recognize together, all of us, that this was no longer, you could not control it. We could not put it in an amateuristic bag. This was not amateurism anymore. Not in football, not in basketball. This sucker grew too big. And we were not giving the student, they did not grow too big, but we did not get, when it grew, we did not allot the resources back to labor, back to the student athletes. So this thing mushroomed. In no way were the courts going to keep giving credibility to the NCAA, to the member institutions, which is us. The Big Ten's growth, the pursuit of, when USC called to grow the conference for Oregon and Washington, and I've used this analogy before, the Big Ten with their periscope from Rosemont, Illinois to Birmingham, Alabama. The SEC's doing the same thing. Periscope from Birmingham to Rosemont, Illinois. So, when Paul Feinbaum and Pat Forte are putting Sankey up here and Petiti, they're doing the same thing. They're doing the same thing. They're competing. Private organizations, by freedom of association, are competing against each other. Competing against the Big 12. Big 12's competing against Mountain West. Big 12's competing against the Pac. Look what the Big 12 did with the Pac-12. We're all competing with each other. Innovation. That's what's going on. And we've had this economic of consolidation that has been going and going and going, and it keeps going. Someday it might favor conference fractures. But I don't see any indication of that quite yet. And to get back to what Nathan said, there is plenty of money out there. The money is knocking on the door. That's why some money, they do not want the power to be in the hands of the SEC presidents. They do not want the power to be in the hands of the Big Ten presidents. Private equity wants the power to be they want the power. They want a super league. They want to invest in a super league. They want to invest in a 50-team super league, a 70-team super league, a 40. They want to invest. They want in because we're leaving money on the table. Amazon wants in. Netflix wants in. Others want in. It's just, it's not a question of is there enough money. The question is who's going to make the decisions. Because for decades, since at least in modern era, since 1950s, it's the member institutions and the commissioners who have made the decisions. Some decisions have been good. Some decisions have been bad. There's big money out there that wants the government to make the decisions, which I happen to think is unbelievably terrible. Unbelievably terrible. And there's a little part of me that wants it to happen because then we're all going to be sitting there watching the destruction. And if that Senate hearing did not teach people that the government should not be making decisions, I don't know what else to say. But this whole breakaway, a threat of a breakaway, consolidation, this has been going on well before 26, 25, 24, 23. What I have said in the past is I do not believe there was a chance of a breakaway on or before 2025. But I said 2026 going forward, it's all up in the air, ladies and gentlemen. It is all up in the air. All right. Thank you, LFG. I appreciate it. Appreciate your kind words so very much. The Big Ten did not have to take Oregon and Washington. The Big Ten did not have to take USC either. But it was best for the member institutions of the conference. It was best for the Big Ten to take Oregon and Washington. It helped out USC and UCLA a great deal. 50 cents on the dollar. It helped the Big Ten. It helped the Big Ten network greatly. You know, that risk that the Big Ten took many years ago, and it paid out. And that's the risk that Cruz and Cantwell want to tear down. This is another reason why the Big Ten and the SEC are sitting there about to hit the nuclear option. As crazy as that sounds, because it's equally crazy to sit there and let all this happen without hitting the nuclear button, because they're the ones, like I say this, and I say this with all kindness. Big 12, Texas Tech, they have no skin in this game. They are not taking any risks. They're not. So when Cody Campbell says we all have to get together and save this, they're not taking any risk. In this bill, again, we're not saving. Who are we saving again, by the way? I don't even know who we're saving anymore. Are we saving Conference USA? Are we closing the gap between the Mountain West Conference and the ACC? Are we closing the gap between the American and the Big 12? What are we doing again? I don't even know what we're doing. Oh, I know what we're doing. Government's taking control. That's what this bill is all about. That's what it's all. It's not. It doesn't give the student athlete any more power. Doesn't give them anything. Okay, that's why we've had to bring up the Florida State money purge with the quick strike information. The very next day, the University of Miami president says what he had to say, and we're going to go over that again right now. Buckeye, Greg, hey, my friend, amazing show. As always, I feel in the Big Ten smoke will rise from the state of Florida. As always, go Buckeye. Thank you so very much, Buckeye Greg. I appreciate it. You are knighted, cloak and dagger. Cloak and dagger, thank you very much. Another 31-month, holy smokes. Nathan Brown, College Football Mafia, member for 30 months. Jose, 31. Buckeye Greg, 31. OBD Dunn, 31. My goodness. What is going on? OBD Dunn, you are knighted, cloak and dagger. There's so much money out there that Scrooge McDuck head was on a swivel. Not only did it spin off, it exploded. Well, swivel. Thank you, OP. I appreciate it. Thank you, OP. Thank you, Buckeye Greg. Thank you, Jose. Thank you, College Football Mafia. I'm not saying that look, the reason why Washington and Oregon got 50 cents on the dollar is because it was right after the media deal was done. Like CBS, NBC, Fox, Peacock, Oregon and Washington, the Big Ten presidents did not have the leverage. They had no leverage in these talks with Oregon and Washington. And Oregon and Washington knew that. Fox came in and said, we'll do this, 50 cents on the dollar, and it happened. But look how much money the Big Ten Network is making. Look how much money the Big Ten Network is making. It's a gold mine. That's third-tier content, sprinkled with first-tier content, of course. You know, everyone's got to have a football game on the Big Ten Network, handful of basketball game. But the Big Ten Network is making so much money. The Big Ten schools keep making more money on the Big Ten Network. The Big Ten does not want to give up control of the Big Ten. Why would they want to give up control of the Big Ten Network? That's exactly what Maria Cantwell, Ted Cruz, Amy, I should not say her name, but others, that's exactly what they want to just destroy. These private media contracts, this private investment from a private association. That's what this bill is all about. Okay. Can you imagine how much, John Grove, can you imagine how much the Big Ten would make if they required a P4 team on their schedule? Again, the Big Ten, and I've ripped on the Big Ten over and over and over again. Of course there should be a requirement that they play 10 Power 4 conference games in their 12-game season. Absolutely ridiculous and unforced error. Now, again, most Big Ten schools do play 10 Power, so I don't think they would make any more money. I don't think they would make any more money, John Grove, unless they do the scheduling agreement with the SEC, something to that effect, which they're looking at doing. And I do think the Big Ten is seriously looking at going to 10 conference games. But besides that, I don't think the Big Ten would make... Most teams in the Big Ten do play for 10 Power 4 conference games, but it should be a requirement. That I would agree. Go back 45. Could the ACC poach from the Big 12 with getting money from the exit fees? I can see Arizona, Colorado, TCU, BYU, West Virginia going there. Well, no, but that all depends on, like, Go Black 45. Thank you very much. First of all, you are knighted cloak and dagger. Once again, Go Black 45, member for 24 months. Holy smokes. Well, that all like, first of all, the bill would, if the bill doesn't pass, because if the bill does pass, the ACC's locked in. Unless they decide to do a quick strike before the bill becomes law and then fight the bill in the courts. But if the bill does not become law and the ACC does get poached, it is really hard to, I don't even want to speculate on it because, first of all, we don't know who's going to get poached from the ACC. We don't know if it's a small scoop or a big scoops. Also, we do not know how the exit fees are going to get paid out to the remaining ACC schools. No one has ever been able to tell me how does the exit fee payouts go to the ACC schools. Do they give them a little bit yearly? Do they give them in one big lump sum? I bet it's not a lump sum because somebody would take that lump sum and say, okay, Big 12, can I join? So there's a lot of different variables with that. I don't know. That's my answer to that, Go Black 45. I don't know who's going to have the advantage between the ACC and the Big 12 if and when the ACC gets poached. Because we don't know who's going to get poached and we don't know the payouts to the ACC schools. Thank you, Go Black 45. Appreciate it. Okay. Let me make sure I got everybody here. Got it. Okay. Vox Quindaro, Leaving on a Jet Plane is the original bleep song. Thanks, Peter, Paul, and Mary. Haven't I? I think I did that song on here. Leaving on a Jet Plane, right? I think I've done that rendition. If not, I'm going to have to do it again. Leaving on a Jet Plane. Did Miami receive Big Ten assurances? Did they? Once again, and again, I would have been the last person to have guessed that this was going to happen. If you would have said, Greg, a week ago, when the Joe Rose interview took place, if you would have said, Greg, a week from now, the University of Miami Facebook account and Twitter account would put this out here, I would have said, no, they're not going to do that. And they did. And obviously, when they did this, I got on the horn and I talked to a handful of people. Again, if you missed it, the University of Miami X account and Facebook account put out this, that Joe Echevarria, who said on the Joe Rose show, we as the university are playing for the next contract, not playing for the one we're in. So however the realignments occur, whatever may occur, we are going to be invited where the leading one is. They won't leave us out. We'll be far too relevant and too big a brand. I do not blame anybody for asking the question, did Miami get assurance from the Big Ten or the SEC? Because presidents don't talk like this. There is, and we'll take this in the, usually, there is no benefit to talking like this in public. It only can harm you. It doesn't benefit you. There's stories out there. You know, the University of Missouri, they were so sure that they were going to join the Big Ten. They were saying things out in public. You don't do that. 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 You keep your mouth shut. Okay, I'll go back to the USC story. And I've talked about this before. When we were reporting the USC story, we were sending out all of our information. We sent out a lot of stuff to a lot of media companies. They all rejected us except for USC 247 with Ryan Abraham. He did not reject our information. They communicated to us. We communicated back to them. One of the key aspects that USC 247 got a hold of was they could not get USC to talk about it at all, what we were reporting. They had questions based upon our reporting, and they could always get somebody at USC to answer them back or to say, we'll get back. They couldn't get anybody. And then finally, they started having podcasts on what we were reporting. And finally, they were starting having podcasts on that USC was not responding to anything. When you are in the midst, if you are in negotiation, if you are in this talk, if you are at the precipice of getting the higher ground, you shut up. You don't say a word. This is the opposite. This is the opposite. This is the opposite. So the question is, or there's a couple of questions. Did Miami receive Big Ten assurances? And who was the audience for the University of Miami president when he said this? When they said this on the Joe Rose show, and then they come back a week later, and I find it almost impossible to believe that the president would not have known that this was going to come out today. So I poked and prodded today on this. Number one, we do not have any evidence that Miami has gotten assurances. But maybe they have. And maybe we are wrong. We're not infallible. We're not infallible. I would say there are 3 big tent poles on how to find out if something is operational from my perspective. One of those is media leaks. And I can't tell you the other 2. One is a Big Ten operational thing that they do when something is happening. I can't really spill the beans there, but I'll just say there is no indications that that Miami has gotten assurances, but maybe they have. Maybe there's a group of Big Ten presidents that have told this fine gentleman, when we pull the trigger, be it a quick strike or be it 4 years from now, you're in. Because I got to tell you, Oregon and Washington knew that exact same thing. When we reported over and over and over and over again that Oregon and Washington was going to be in the Big Ten 5 months from now or 5 years from now, and if they were going to make it in 5 months from now, these are the things that needed to happen. The first one being Kevin Warren needed to leave office, and then he left office, and then everything else just fell right into place. Oregon and Washington knew. They knew they were the next additions that the Big Ten presidents wanted. Not Stanford. Not California. USC did not say no to Washington. USC did not say no to Oregon. There's a lot of made up stories going on around X right now that people keep sending me, and I keep chuckling and laughing and go, what the hell? All this stuff was reported in real time. And then it was looked at by the Los Angeles Times, Pete Thamel, and others. I'm sorry, you guys want to make up a whole new story? You go right ahead. But it's laughable. USC did not veto anybody. That's just, I know people want to believe certain things, but that's not what, USC called the Big Ten alone. UCLA called the Big Ten alone. Let me tell you, I want to explain something. USC and UCLA work separately to join the Big Ten. Texas and Oklahoma work together for the SEC. And this situation is a mix. It is in the middle. It's neither one of those extreme cases. This one is situational positioning. Schools are talking with each other. Some of them are not talking with each other at all. It's situational. So go back to the original question. We do not believe that Miami has received Big Ten assurances. We could be wrong. We are completely open to that. But we do not believe it is a done deal or there is even an assurance. However, I say this with 100% conviction, and this is a new piece of information that may be connected to this story that made the president even more confident that something is going to happen for Miami. Penn State wants Miami into the Big Ten. Penn State is Miami's ultimate sponsor. Is that going to be enough? Is Miami going to get to the Big Ten? I say this, that the two predictions that we have made, we predicted Miami to the Big Ten, but those were not reports. Because we don't believe we don't think it's done. We don't think it's operational. We don't think anything is imminent. Although that could quickly change. And maybe it already quickly changed and we didn't know about it. But Penn State is completely on board. And there's a bunch of reasons for that. I'm not going to get into it, but there is this the Big Ten has gotten into the East Coast with big demographic states, Maryland and New Jersey, and it fit what they needed at the time. But now they want to get to the East Coast, the athletes, the Southeast. Penn State has made it known that they are committed, fully sponsoring Miami. We said over a year ago, because we were told that Michigan is well in on Miami. We have made it no secret that we believe Miami is below Notre Dame and North Carolina on the Big Ten candidate list, but there's nobody above Miami besides Notre Dame and North Carolina. So there's where we are. And of course, if you go back a week ago, the night before, the University of Miami president goes on the Joe Rowe show, we had our Florida State Money Perch contact us with multiple emails, because we were going back and forth, telling us who was on the quick strike Big Ten list and SEC Big Ten who they thought, what Florida State thought, after talking with a bunch of ACC schools. And of course, they had Miami Big Ten quick strike list. So this has been buzzing around, ladies and gentlemen. The national press is not getting to this level of, if you've been listening to Ross Dellinger, he goes to a certain point. He keeps talking about how the SEC and the Big Ten are being pushed to do this next drastic step. Pat Forday's article goes all the way to the edge, but doesn't take the next step. So this stuff is out there. It's completely out there. The chatter is crazy. But I have no independent evidence that Miami has received the wink or the nod. We don't have that information. And if it comes out tomorrow that it happened, then we were wrong, and I'll tell you, we were wrong. And we are the ones that have been most aggressive about Miami's, spot in the Big Ten's. We have been very, very, very aggressive in our reports to you that there's a lot of things that the Big Ten wants. There's a lot of things about Miami that the Big Ten wants and thinks and believes that addition would help all the member institutions of the conference. And I want to say this before, it's not that I'm uncertain. No, that's not what I'm saying. Edward the Auburn Tiger. Greg, if you're uncertain about Miami, they may be on the way. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, look, you all know that you all know what we at Peek Around the Corner, all the information that we have delivered to you about Miami and the Big Ten. We don't believe they have received the assurance. If you are asking me to put my chips in the middle of the table, I would have it at Miami have not received those assurances yet. They have not received that wink and a nod yet. But I'm also not going to sit here and say I'm completely 100% correct, because obviously maybe they have. Because the president is acting like they have. But there are ways. we've done this for a long time. There are ways for us to know that something has turned operational, and there is no evidence of that as I speak here. If it becomes evident, I will tell you as quick as I possibly can, but I see no evidence of that. That's what I mean. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. There ain't no way that ASU is finishing 10th or 11th in the Big 12. You know what? You may very well be right, although I am Greg the Gold this year. But when I was Greg the Cooler, and when Arizona State won the Big 12 championship behind Sam Leavitt, I had Arizona State finishing 16th place. 16 out of 16 schools in the Big 12. So you may be onto something. You may be onto something. We shall see. All right. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. That is our reporting on this. Wow. The phone lines are now open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333.
From Canes Fan 1993.
Canes Fan 1993. Thank you for the phone call. I appreciate it. The floor is yours.
How's it going, Greg?
Doing pretty good. How are you doing, sir?
Business is a booming down here, it seems.
Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts on this? Usually a president doesn't talk like this, so
this president in particular does not talk like this either.
Yeah.
And if you go back even just 6 to 9 months ago and listen to Radakovich, anytime he was asked something very similar, you would get a very vanilla, we're a proud member of the ACC, and it would sort of push it away. Very, political, the right answer.
Yeah.
Now, not only has he come out and offered more information than he was asked, but now they have underlined it, for lack of a better term. I mean, they sent out an email blast today. It's on every single school-affiliated account. I don't think that's a coincidence.
Yeah, I was told that too. I just don't have those accounts to show. But wow, and I'll say I was able to talk to some people, and and everyone's having the same reaction. It's incredibly unique. You do not see this, especially when we have this bill that's up there in Congress that says,
correct,
nobody's going to expand, and he's talking about the next. And then on that Joe Rose show, of course, he said, "I'm suspicious about that it's going to happen with like how it happened with Texas and Oklahoma, where
correct.
you're not going to enter into the new conference the next year. You're going to have to wait another year," which speaks to a scenario that is. I don't know, man. This is incredibly intriguing, and it's got a lot of people going, do they have an assurance from the Big Ten?
So I want to put it to you this way. I understand what you've been saying as far as, hey, nothing is settled, nothing is operationalized, as you put it. But is there an in-between between nothing is going on and operationalization, where they may have communicated to Miami, we're going to figure it out. We don't know if it's going to be plan A, B, C, D, in which case your timeline changes from 6 months to maybe 3-4 years, but it's going to get done.
Yeah, it's possible. Yep, it's possible.
You know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of things on the table, right? A lot of factors they can't possibly predict because it's very unpredictable. Is Congress going to pass this bill? Is something else is there a meteor going to hit the world tomorrow? Like, there's a lot of uncertainty, and so I would almost think, especially given what's happened the last 6 months, that is much more likely than them to say, hey, we're going to go ahead and do it on this date, because there's so much unknown still.
Okay. So I'm gonna unveil a little bit more. I'm gonna push the envelope a little bit more. Okay. That USC story. One of the components in that USC story is, once we were out there and once we were saying the talks are going and this is going to happen, then we were able to get more and more information. And if everybody remembers, suddenly out of nowhere, because during that time, the Big Ten was supposed to have struck their new media deal well before they actually did, right?
Right.
It stalled. It was being pushed back. And one of the reasons is because the USC was part of the talks. So that was leaked to us, okay? The Pac-12 situation was even worse than what was out in public. And I kept saying that over and over and over again. I said they don't even have a deal that they can put a thumbs down to or thumbs up to. That was leaked all over the place. When ESPN's, I mean, there's 1,000 examples. The Oklahoma Texas thing. I put out tweets. I've showed them on the show before that Texas and Oklahoma, their eyes are on the new SEC media deal. Their eyes are watching that because it was leaked that they were also part of the future talks. Like, what would it look? There are people in the media, the people who work for these media companies, they leak.
Correct.
So maybe they're not leaking and it's happening, or maybe they're leaking, but I haven't received the leak yet. Those are two possibilities. But there is not that evidence of the Big Ten, They don't
have their ducks in a row yet to where they would have to if they were going to do it tomorrow.
Yeah, like I would so like Washington and Oregon, they knew from Jump Street that they were not going to get the full package. They absolutely knew that before, like they knew that the moment that USC and UCLA signed on June 30th, and then it took it to August 4th for all that to happen with Oregon and Washington. They knew that they were not going to get the full freight. Like, this situation, how does Miami even know? Does Miami know that? Do they have a good sense, a good range on what package they would get from the Big Ten and the SEC?
I think, at least from my perspective, and again, I only speak to people in my circle, but I think they know that they're not getting 100%.
Yeah,
right. I think that's abundantly clear.
And they probably know only because we're not close to that.
Correct.
Renegotiations. Correct. Although maybe we are, we don't know it.
Well, and that was going to be the piece that I was going to add in.
Yeah.
You talked about over the weekend. Hey, if there's going to be this, second wave, that a lot of that's going to depend on Amazon and Apple and those streaming giants, Netflix.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't you know, Mr. Bezos happens to be a substantial booster of the University of Miami,
Yeah.
is at multiple athletic events every year, and has been working really closely with President Joe and some of the others.
Doesn't
And
he have a
tends to
son
have
that goes there or something?
a stepchild. Yep.
Stepchild?
Yep.
Yeah, I've heard all of that. I've also heard that Miami, I've heard what, oh man, I got to be careful here. There's lots of reasons. Like, now people are interpreting this that I'm not sure about Miami. You know, that's not what I'm saying. You know, I got to be very careful in what I say because
someone's going to take it and run it. And
yeah,
draw
well, they
extrapolations
do
of
that
something
anyway.
that's not
But I
there.
want you serious people to try to understand. I don't have evidence. I don't have independent evidence. It could be out there, and I'm missing it.
The best way to put it is something changed 2 weeks ago. I can't tell you exactly what it is because, to your point, there has not been a smoking gun that says, hey, the Big Ten has offered Miami an invitation. However, Miami had plenty of opportunities prior to that to take this stance if they wanted to, and they did not. And I know for a fact, and I think you've sort of alluded to it, that interview was not done on its own. There was some coordination as far as questions that Joe Rose was fed to give. And
I'm gonna go allegedly on that.
And the university had an agenda that they wanted to get out there to whoever they wanted to get out there. I will also say they're getting ready to announce a new apparel agreement. They're coming off their centennial anniversary with a new fundraising agenda, a new conference announcement, whether it be that they're leaving, in 2 years or however, would probably be good to be timed around now when they go and announce, whether they're going to re-up with Adidas in addition to these other things, just to continue to build on that momentum. Mm-hmm. So I could definitely see the university positioning that as far as some larger university goals.
Yeah, again, it is. You just don't.
And I think he alluded to that, right, where he said, like Texas, Oklahoma, hey, we could announce tomorrow and not leave for 4 years.
Yes. Yeah.
So he's sort of already setting the table. And again, if you're going to go to what you alluded to as far as a legal route, there are stakeholders in the South Florida area you're going to need to get on board in order to do that because there's a risk there.
Yes.
And so I think both politically and from a fundraising perspective, they're putting all their chips on and showing their cards as far as, hey, regardless of whatever happens, we're not going to let this affect our aspirations, I guess is the easiest way to put it.
Yes. I think that's the audience. I think it's Miami audience that he's talking to. I don't believe he's talking to the Big Ten.
No, because again, to your point, the Big Ten would know if they had sent them an offer. I don't think that conversation needs to be had at this point.
Yeah.
And I will also say, and again, I know there's been disagreements as far as with my brothers up north, but I don't think Miami does anything in isolation. If they were going to go that route, regardless of whether that school in Tallahassee decides to join the Big Ten or otherwise, I would think that they would be hand in hand in challenging anything on those grounds because it would be mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
So, but I would expect if this is going to really go to a head and Ted Cruz is going to continue to push this, that we will probably get more clarity sooner rather than later, especially if Miami is beginning to start a PR campaign for whatever that end game is.
All righty, man. I appreciate the phone call. 1993 Canes fan. Appreciate it, sir.
Have a good night, sir.
You got
Take care.
it.
Bye.
Beautiful call. Beautiful call. We got a $2 holla. $2 holla from Marcus Williams, and he has a great question. Great question. In your opinion, who is number 20 if Miami is number 19?
Jeff Fuller.
Jeff Fuller, can you hold on for just one moment, please?
Of course.
I got a question here. In your opinion, who is number 20 if Miami is 19? To me, there's two different questions. Is Miami 19 because of a normal realignment expansion if this bill doesn't pass, blah, 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 and it's 3 or 4 years from now, who is number 20? Or who is number 20 if Miami's 19 because of some quick strike, because of the conference wants to go to war, wants to go to court, whatever. So there's also a different couple scenarios of Miami 19. I'm going to take it as Marcus is asking, who is your opinion, who's number 20 if Miami is 19 in this specific environment? And I would, first of all, let me answer the Florida State thing real quick. I think this is Florida State. If they were to get an invite to the Big Ten, and we've talked about this for 3 years, this would be the scenario that would have to happen for Florida State to get to the Big Ten. I have not made it a secret. And again, there's not been any shots at Florida State. It's just, I've been told consistently Miami is ahead of Florida State in the Big Ten pecking order for all the reasons we've talked about. But the Miami-Florida State dynamic would be quite valuable to the Big Ten. And, of course, Florida State's been making all these, an emerging research university. And, I mean, there's a lot of value in the Florida State. But a Florida State-Miami would increase, that would be, and I can't see the Southeastern Conference letting that happen. I would not have Florida State as the chalk for number 20. But I would have them as a candidate, no question about it. The chalk at number 20 if Miami is 19. In this environment where you got to have somebody really be the rebel, you got to take on the risks. Wow. In this environment, again, I would have to say Duke, Florida State. I don't think Georgia Tech is that type of institution. Everything from I heard. I don't think Virginia can do it. I don't think North Carolina can do it. I don't think. This type of environment, I think, eliminates a lot of people. So I would say Duke, Florida State. And I don't know how Utah could ever pull it off. This is too early. So Duke and Florida State, I guess. It really is. If we're talking about right now, right here. Okay, chalk, Notre Dame. As crazy as that sounds. Duke and Florida State next. But that's not a report. That's a prediction. And that prediction has a 1% chance of being accurate. But again, Miami, overall Big Ten candidate list, we have been very clear on this. Notre Dame, North Carolina, Miami, top 3, and everybody else is on a different tier. We've been saying that for quite a few years here at Peek Around the Corner. Jeff Fuller, first of all, Jeff Fuller, thank you for your massive super chat the other day. I appreciate it. Thank you for calling, and thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. I got stuck on this question. I have no idea what's going to happen. Go ahead, sir. The floor is yours.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm happy to support the show and listen as much as I can. Can't catch every show, and I've missed the majority of this one. What I want to talk about mostly, I was trying to call in, I think, to your Friday or Saturday show. And, just, I know it's going on the back burner a little bit, as the act passed through committee and went to, it's going to go to the floor, going to go for a vote at some point. They want to get it through within 60 days. And I know, realignment gets the clicks and the buzz, and it's vitally important. You've always been able to provide a peek around the corner, as you've named your show. My perspective here is, when is the last time that you can recall that the Republicans and the Democrats got together to pass a bill together?
I can't remember. This might be the one though, but before this one, I don't remember.
And that's part of what, I try to be nice about it. I realize I'm not representing a school or a conference with the power, but it's like, come on, guys, read the room. What in the world has the Big Ten and the SEC done over the last 3 or 4 years since they've, pretty much wrestled control of the sport away from everyone else, along with their, media partners, respective media partners. They've got the Democrats and the Republicans to agree to stuff, to compromise, because they do not like, and the majority of Americans do not like, what has happened to college football. Let me tell you, I see patients, all over the state of Alabama, mainly focused on the northern, western part, central Alabama, and Birmingham as well. But a lady I've been seeing for years, taking care of her eyes, her macular degeneration, probably injected her eyes about every other month for, a solid 5 or 6 years. She is a hardcore Tennessee fan. She's in her 70s, represents a different demographic, but she's the sicko before sickos were sickos. She brings in, in August, she brings in printouts of the helmet schedules for the entire SEC and hands them out to not just our staff, but all the other patients that are there. Whenever it's football season, she'll bring out a printout of who's playing who and, the rankings. She loves her Vols, and she hates Tennessee. She hates Alabama and Nick Saban, as any proper Tennessee fan would. When she came in and she talked about, Nick Saban testifying about this bill, she's like, man, it pains me to say that Nick Saban was absolutely right about everything he said. So this is someone who's a sicko, SEC supporter, dyed in the wool, college football fan. And I think that's, you talk about silos of conferences. I think sometimes we get in our own echo chambers, and we may consider ourselves the more digital age of sickos, or people who are just in it and going through every single thing, and the tribalism that all of us are guilty of, or that all of us have. It's just the nature of who we are and who we support, and the fact that we love our team so much. We want to see them survive. We want to see them to get to higher ground, as you often say. But when you sort of have these 4 different levels of people. You got people like us who are just waiting with bated breath on every single revelation, every single, it's sort of following the soap opera of it all to some degree. Then you have your loyal fans, your people who buy season tickets, who go to games, and then you have your sort of your casuals, and people who like college sports will sort of maybe join a team if it's like, oh, I'm from Indiana. Indiana's great this year. I'm going to watch them, towards the end of the year as they're doing really good. And you pick up some of those casual fans as you get better and better, and you pick up a lot of viewers as well. Then you have the normals. These are people who say they're sports fans, but they watch the Super Bowl for the commercials, or they watch for social reasons. And I think when you're looking at things like, I hear Moen all the time saying the viewership, SEC and Big Ten dominate the viewership. It's like, well, part of that's earned, part of that's, scooping up the blue bloods, but part of that is windows and TV, the selection. You get the good windows on the good channels. You get the promotion all the year. You start with the highest rankings, and yeah, a lot of it's earned, but you can't say that because the SEC and the Big Ten have 60 some odd percent of the viewership that represents 60% of the fans. I've presented evidence, time and again that it's closer to 40% of fans ascribe to these two conferences, and even that is even that changes. Some fandom does change. When you start to go down the list of who is against this bill, it's getting to be a pretty short list, Greg. There's not a single conference that is against this bill outside of the SEC and the Big Ten.
Why would they be against it? There's no reason for them to be against it. They're not risking anything. So when you say read the room, most of the room.
Excuse me?
Can you hear me?
I didn't hear what you said.
Oh,
I think I lost you.
No, that's a fine. I apologize for interrupting. But why would any of those conferences be against it? They're not. They don't have any risk. They don't have any.
It freezes the expansion possibility of not just the SEC and the Big Ten, but pretty much all the conferences. I thought I saw something where it just meant Power 4 conferences couldn't poach each other, but apparently there may be more to it than that they can't poach anyone. But again, risk versus reward. What does it say in the Spider-Man movie? With great power comes great responsibility, and the power that the SEC and the Big Ten have had, the only thing they've presented is the SCORE Act, and they did not go back to the drawing table and say, okay, well, how can we really get this done? Let's do a bipartisan effort. And bipartisan bill is going to be a crap sandwich. There will be some sustenance in a crap sandwich, but there's going to be crap in it too. And you start to go down. The NCAA supports this. You start to go down. The only people who are against this are the blood-sucking agents and the SEC and the Big Ten. And that may be enough to kill it. I don't know. But the immediate threat after this passed 19-9 in the Senate, which needs 60 votes to pass, and people are saying it very well could, and if Trump's supporting it on the other end, might make it through Congress. That the immediate response, and you read in that Wilner article, is, ooh, you better, don't poke the bear. It's this immediate, just sort of bow up, and you think we're mean now, just wait until you really piss us off. If going back to the one play, the one trick playbook, and I'm a patient person, but I'm just sick of it. The SEC and the Big Ten have shown that they would rather have 5% more for themselves and everyone else just die on the vine than to give up anything for themselves. And I believe in capitalism. We all believe in it. This bull crap about people saying, well, freedom of association. That doesn't apply to multi-billion-dollar companies. We're talking about social clubs. We're talking about alliances. We're talking about religions. And being able to associate, you don't have the right, that's why monopolies are broken up. Yes, it's better for Ma Bell to buy the smaller, telecom company. They buy them out. The telecom company makes off like a bandit. Ma Bell gets more control. Win-win. That's what we're seeing with Miami to the Big Ten, or whoever to the SEC eventually, North Carolina and Virginia to the SEC. Yes, there's a win-win there, and capitalism says go ahead and do that. But at what point, when you kill off everyone else and cutting off your nose to spite your face, decreasing long-term your interest in your sport and your viewership. I mean, I'm starting to believe people like John Kirk who say that this bill is to help the SEC and the Big Ten save them from themselves. And again, I appreciate the platform. I'm happy to hear your response. But I've lost patience.
Okay. I appreciate the call, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Fuller.
Sir.
I'll give you my response. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
You got it.
Thanks, Greg.
Beautiful. And I think Mr. Jeff Fuller speaks for a lot of people. I think Jeff Fuller speaks for a lot of people. How do I even start? Number one, these are private organizations that are, as of right now, and that may change, considered nonprofit. And they do have the right of freedom of association. None of the schools that are in the Big 12 have to be in the Big 12. They don't have to sign the bylaws. They can leave. Same thing with the Big 10. Same thing with the SEC. Same thing with the ACC. I haven't gotten any of my answers, any of my questions answered. What does this actually save? This bill doesn't save anything. It gives the government more and more control over college sports. And if you think the Big Ten and the SEC are destroying it, you haven't seen anything yet. They're talking about taking over some parts of the scheduling. Can you imagine? Do you want the Congress doing the scheduling for these conferences? They start out with the non-conference schedule. In the bill, it says that the government can now, in the future, go back and look at the entire structure. That's in the bill. This is the Cody Campbell bill. This is the government control of college sports. Jeff Fuller said, read the room. I am reading the room, and the room is saying to me that basically any school that doesn't have skin in the game is going to be for this bill. But it isn't Texas Tech. It's not BYU. It's not Kansas. It's not Kansas State. It's not Wake Forest. It's not. They're not sacrificing anything. They're not risking anything. This bill that everybody seems to be supporting destroys the Big Ten network because eventually this bill is going to make everything mandatory on sharing the media rights. So that destroys the Big Ten. Who is going to write the University of Minnesota a $100 million check because we invested in the Big Ten network? Who's going to write that check? And if it isn't mandatory, then the bill is worthless because all these rights and protections that everybody's going to get only gets triggered if there are pooled media rights together. So the bill doesn't do anything unless you make sure that everybody pool their media rights together. Which, by the way, Bob Thompson doesn't think it's going to work. Bavak doesn't think it's going to work. There's a lot of people who don't think if you pool all the media rights together, that's not going to give everybody more and more millions of dollars. I don't even understand that theory. Why would Fox pay more? Why would ESPN pay more? Why would Amazon pay more if we are pooling 138 media rights together? It doesn't. For me, there's literally nothing in this bill that makes sense to me. And if it's 99% against one, and I'm that 1%, I'm going to read the room and I'm going to say you 99% are off your cheese have slipped off your cracker. Private organization making media rights deals, and these media rights deals are going to go on in 2031. Like this bill, if it was enacted, supposedly the Big Ten would not be able to revise, extend. What kind of decisions can the Big Ten even do with the Big Ten network? It literally takes the decision making out of the conferences and schools and gives it to the government. I understand why people hate the SEC. I understand why the people hate the Big Ten. I get all that. Tribalism, right? Tribalism. But I get it. Big Ten has made some mistakes. I get all that. I really do. And I have been ripped apart because I'm not showing enough empathy and everything. I mean, it's one of the big reasons why I want to play off of 24. It's why I supported the 4-4-4-4-2-6. I want everybody to stay together. I don't want the breakaway. I don't want the breakaway. But the SEC and the Big Ten are the only ones that are taking any of the risks. So the whole thing, like, I for the life of me, there is a part of me that hopes, that kind of hopes this thing passes. Because it's going to destroy. It's going to take away innovation. One of the parts of the bill, Mr. Fuller and anybody else who's listening to me who haven't completely turned this off, they were saying in the Senate hearing, I was doing the live stream, they were talking about how we need to get this bill done so we can have everybody under one media right, so we can elevate. We can all make millions and millions of more dollars. Ohio State's going to make more. BYU's going to make more. Louisiana Tech's going to make more. And that money's going to go to Olympic sports, women's sports. Then the very next thing they talked about is this bill is going to restrict streaming. That we're going to restrict having these streaming platforms bid on these media rights. Mr. Fuller, Mr. Doug Steinhauser, Mr. Keynes fan, Mr. Mohr Simmons, we were doing a live stream. But I had to drive to Little General somewhere and I was coming back, but I had it on my phone. I was listening. I was trying to get back in the studio. I almost drove my car into a bridge embankment when I heard that. Because at the same time, you're trying to raise all this money in this new ploy to get everybody under one roof to negotiate. You're going to take out the streaming component, the innovator, and then so the other platforms that can still bid on this, they're going to bid less. They're going to have less competition. Is this a charity or is this trying to get more money to save women's sports, Olympic sports? Those are the engineers. Those are the managers that want to take over college sports in this bill. That's not that. And then you talk about this, you talk about how, some conferences and some schools, they got the better time slots, raises viewership. I agree with all that. So how is this 138 schools being under the same media rights? Who's going to get put where? Who makes those decisions? How do we know who's going to play on ABC? Oh, do we have to have Louisiana Tech be on ABC? I mean, out of fairness, and you're going to keep these viewership numbers? It's, and then, who's going to do the negotiations for this media rights? When we're all together, who's going to be doing the negotiations for the media, for the next contract? Some board is. Did you hear the Senate hearing? Some government entity, some board. And Senator of Missouri, Schmidt, said, no, I want to incentivize the Big Ten and the SEC to come with the rest of us and be for everybody under this one umbrella. So what we're going to do under this board is we're going to give them more incentive. We're going to give them more members on the board. But you know what? He couldn't even put that up for an amendment to the bill because he knew that idea was going to get shot down. So he just said, this is something I'm talking about. I'm going to pull it, and we're not. It's the board. It's the board that's going to decide the next media rights and how much money and who goes where. And the board is going to be run by the government. Exactly what Cody Campbell put in his plan. Exactly what I reported to you all. Complete accuracy. And I understand what Jeff Fuller is saying. He's lost patience. I have lost patience in reading the room. Because I think the room is either onto something or onto something. And I think they're on. This bill is an abomination, in my strongly held opinion. And again, I put up comments and give phone calls and give everybody a chance to tell them there is no. Why would the Big Ten ever support this bill? And maybe it passes. And maybe the government comes in and they're going to try to save us all. That there's no way on God's green earth the Big Ten would ever support this abomination. And they should fight it. And if it passes, they should fight it again. They should go to the courts. They should lace these people up. And they should argue. They should argue. And this is where I'm going to end it. They should argue on the basis of freedom of association. There is no First Amendment freedom of speech without the connection of the freedom of association, freedom of assembly, and religious liberty. They're all connected per the courts, the decisions over the last 100 years. Again, as of right now, these Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, they're not a business, so to speak. They are a private organization, nonprofit. That's what they are. We have public universities that are heavily regulated. But they make their own decisions on a grand scale on so many decisions. I do not want the government coming in and telling the University of Minnesota what they have to do with their research dollars. I sure in the hell don't want this government coming in and trying to manage and operate and limit and take away the innovation of the University of Minnesota Golden Gopher hockey programs. I can't imagine what they're going to do to those programs. So that's my take. I think the bill is an abomination. Could it pass? If it passes, I got to eat a double cheeseburger with 2 types of cheeses, and then on live show, and then that's the last time any of you will ever hear from me again, because I will stroke out. So there it is. There's even another motivation for a lot of you on why you want this bill passed. I'll be stroked out, and kumbaya, we're going to have utopia, and Maria Cantwell, Ted Cruz, and Cody Campbell are coming to save you. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I appreciate it. I want to thank Evil Badger, Heartbreak 25, Marcus Williams, Bimba 75, 79, the College Football Mafia, Jose, Buckeye Greg, OBD Dunn, Go Black 45, Marcus Williams, and Amazing Blue for your generosity, Amazing Blue. Greg, would it work if Miami and Florida State worked with Duke coming in basically free like SMU did? You mean that Duke is going to grease the skids for Miami and Florida State? because SMU did grease the skid for Stanford and California. Plus, they took 30 cents on the dollar. Woo! I don't know, Amazing Blue. I think Duke is working for Duke. I think Duke is one of those schools that are not doing any situational. I don't think they're having any situational positioning. I think Duke is talking for Duke. I think Miami and Florida State have had talks. And I'm pretty sure Clemson and North Carolina have had talks. And I'm pretty sure there's been a lot of situational positioning talks are going on. But I think Duke, I might be wrong. We might be wrong at Peek Around the Corner. I think Duke has probably kept to themselves. Maybe a few talks with North Carolina. But I would bet all my chips in the middle of the table that North Carolina has had 1,000 times more discussions with Virginia than they've had with Duke. I think Duke is probably pretty alone on this. That's my take. Amazing Blue, I could be wrong. Thank you for the $5 holler. I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody coming on in. The phone line is what I've hung it up. We got to get. I've been on the air for 2 hours and 30 minutes. I've got a lot of work to do. 54% of Minnesota research grants are from the federal government. Of course they are. The federal government says we need this, and Minnesota applies and bids and gets it because Minnesota research is incredible. But that doesn't mean the government makes the decisions for the University of Minnesota. University of Minnesota is not, the research department isn't government run. But I guess a lot of people want their athletic department to be government run. And everybody else's athletic department. And I don't know. I think I've lost the fight. I do apologize, Mohr, Simmons, and everybody else. We're locking it up. I want to thank everybody. Please join us tomorrow for another live show. It's either going to be early in the morning or it's going to be late at night. Early in the morning or late at night, because I'm doing some caretaking between 11 o'clock in the morning Central Time to 7 o'clock in the evening Central Time. So it's going to be a live show early in the morning or late at night. But we're going to deliver to you what is going on in college football the best that we possibly can. Again, we did the Clemson Tigers. The spotlight. They got some talent. Of course they got some talent. The Clemson Tigers are brimming with talent. The quarterback, I don't know. We're going to find out. Chris Johnson, a great transfer from SMU with Gideon Davidson. Is Davidson ready? We know Wesco's ready. We know Mohr is ready. We definitely know Will Helt is ready. And Sammy Brown, the great linebacker. We did the Clemson spotlight. We talked about the Miami Hurricanes. Did they receive Big Ten assurances? And tomorrow, it's going to be another banger of a show. So before you leave, smash the like button. Subscribe to our channel and ring that notification bell from all of us at PATC to all of you. Please, y'all take great care of each other. And as always, God, family, Golden Gopher.